Well, Cern and I have already identified that we have multiple things in common. One of those is we both played trumpet, but what we didn't have in common was my race was the 100 yards. I never liked distance. In fact, I've never completed a mile actually running,
Well,
maybe crawling, but never running. but but anyway, so that would put us on opposite ends of that particular sport. But you've when we ended our last conversation, and by the way, folks, you may want to go back and check out part one because it was a ton of fun. We got to the place in your life where you're in your 20s, you decide to hang up your running shoes where you had actually had quite a bit of success, won some national events, and traveled internationally as a result, doing cross country. But then you gave that up, and how did you end up even? Well, you were born in New Zealand, so I can imagine mountain climbing might have been an obvious thing, but or was it? Was it something that just came along?
well, I think the more obvious thing was where I was growing up then in Canada, which was in Calgary,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
um,
Yes.
right next to the Rocky Mountains.
Right. Right.
And so where we lived, we had a beautiful view of the Rockies. On a clear day, you could see, probably, 50 different peaks in the distance.
Wow.
Right? They sit up beautifully, particularly in the wintertime when they have snow on them, they look even higher and closer.
Yeah.
And so I think the mountains were always calling. They were always there. And of course, as a kid, I grew up skiing.
Hmm.
And then in the summertime, whether it's mountain biking or just hiking and climbing, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right. So the mountains were calling you. You finished up your running career. You probably were, was it kind of a thing of where you decided to do mountains and gave up cycling? I mean, I'm sorry, running, or was it more a case of you gave up running and were like, hey, I need a sport?
I'm not really sure how that evolved. I know that my father was very much into hiking and just being in the mountains. That was very much who he was. And I enjoyed spending a lot of time with my dad, and so that was one way I think for us to do things together.
Mhm. Okay.
And we ended up having actually a pretty amazing experience here. I'll just share with you some photos here. This is from the previous
Right.
show. Um, After my mountain climbing period was over, I became a cyclist. So this slides out of order, but this is me on 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐢𝐥 in Maui,
Oh, okay.
riding above the clouds.
Yes.
This
And
is from
once again, we were on opposite sides of Haleakala. You were riding uphill on
yeah.
Haleakala, and I was taking the downhill. My travels were much easier than yours.
Well, the downhill part's fun too. That's the benefit of riding uphill. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I went through a phase where I really enjoyed mountain climbing, and most of the mountain climbing I did was not very technical, although in the later years I was starting to get more focused on that.
Okay.
And this image actually was taken on a mountain in Ecuador.
Hmm.
And this actually is the day that I pretty much decided that I was not going to become a mountain climber, that I wasn't going to pursue it. And it's not because of this photo where I'm on my back. This is actually training where you're trying to learn how to self-arrest.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
So this was planned and this was okay. I wasn't plummeting to my death here. But on this location, a big chunk of the mountain, a big chunk of ice, came down pretty close to us.
Wow.
And I kind of decided that I didn't really want to risk my life in that way.
I see. Yeah.
But I was definitely heading towards, objectives like climbing Everest,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
right? And that would have been a psychological step from where I was going.
Right. Right.
So just to take a step backwards, so this is a photo from Nepal, and this is probably one of the best sort of hiking experiences I've ever had. Nepal is such a magical place, and it's the home, of course, to most of the world's biggest mountains.
Right.
On that trip, I got to meet a mountaineering legend, Reinhold Messner.
Hmm.
I believe he's the first guy to climb Everest without oxygen.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
him there on the left.
Uh,
And so that was pretty amazing. I happened to be there kind of at I think it was some anniversary of Edmund Hillary climbing Everest.
oh,
I forget what, 80th anniversary or something like that. And so not only did I get to meet Reinhold Messner, who was there doing a film, but I got to meet Edmund Hillary's son here in gray. This is Peter Hillary. And this is taken in front of Mount Everest Base Camp. You can see some of the tents back behind us here.
Mhm.
And this is the 𝐂𝐚𝐲 Icefall here on the right. So I've always enjoyed, being in these high mountains. This is like 18,000 feet. This is pretty high right here.
Right.
It's hard to breathe. And of course, that's just base camp for Everest, which goes up to about 29,000 feet.
So you made the Everest base camp, but you didn't challenge the summit.
No, not on that trip, but that certainly would have been, maybe the thing to come back and try the next year.
Right.
But I decided not to pursue that path. Yeah, and of course, also while I was here, there was a climber that died on the mountain, and I got to see the helicopter carrying his body away.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of reminders when you're there about how dangerous this place is.
Now they just litter the side of the path, right? You just pass them on your way up and back. And I was reading some article about that just yesterday.
Yeah, there are some people frozen in place, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is kind of, it was a great experience, a great trek and so on. Also, this is taken in Patagonia. This is also one of the world's great mountainous places.
Mm-hmm.
Stunning place just to go hiking. This is inside a hole in the ice that's formed by wind. So this, just I really enjoyed my time in the mountains. It's there's so many incredible places to experience. But the key thing I think for me was spending time with my dad.
Sure.
And my father had a love for mountains that I haven't really seen in anybody else that I know really well. But this is a trip that we did to Kilimanjaro in Africa. And he was all smiles the whole time. And at that point, I think he was 71. And this is actually taken from the crater inside Kilimanjaro near the top.
Mm.
This is about 18,000 feet up.
Mm-hmm.
And the snow in the crater, I actually wrote a post kind of about this on X recently, but the snow here, there's no rivers coming off the top of Kilimanjaro. The ice and the snow go from solid to water vapor.
Right.
Right. It doesn't melt first. It just turns into the vapor. It's a bit like dry ice in that regard. It just evaporates. Yeah. But this ice here was very crunchy. It was like this really hard, little tiny, almost like trees.
Mm.
They look like little trees, but they were very, very hard. And so walking on here was kind of made an interesting sound. This is me next to one of the glaciers inside the crater, which I think now is almost nearly melted away. This was back in 2007, so almost 20 years ago.
Right.
These are all my footprints walking around the crater inside. I was just amazed at how beautiful the place was, and I was taking photos from every different angle I could think of. And here we are reaching the summit rim. There's a rim around the crater, and this is kind of getting to the high point. This is me here in the middle, and my dad here in the left. We spent a night actually down sleeping in this crater at about 18,000 feet. It was probably the worst night of sleep in my entire life. It was not restful. There's hardly any oxygen. You just feel like you're just gasping for air. It's pretty rough. So I was quite happy the next day to be up and walking and climbing again. My dad making the summit. There's an ash pit in the middle of the crater. And the previous day, I walked up there, and these are my footprints and my guide's footprints going up there. Mm-hmm. So it's just an incredible experience. And here we are at the top. So we shared a love of the mountains, and that was probably one of the reasons that was such a big thing for me.
Sure.
The CFA Society, which is a global organization, recognized me as their most inspiring member.
Most inspiring member. Wow.
In 2007 because of this Kilimanjaro trip.
I see.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did the trip actually to raise some money for my oldest son, who was born with a genetic condition called, at the time, 22q13 deletion syndrome.
Is there I'm not going to be able to remember that.
It's a very rare genetic condition that causes an absence of genetic material in this 22nd chromosome.
Okay.
So at the time that he was diagnosed, when he was 5, he was one of just a handful of people in the world with this condition.
Wow.
And so we did this trip to raise money for the foundation. Here's the banner here, 22q13 Deletion Foundation.
Got
The
it.
name has now since been changed. It's called Phelan-McDermid syndrome now.
Okay.
Um, anyway, that gave us extra motivation to reach the summit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's an adult now, I guess.
He is. He's now 25 years old. Yeah.
Okay. And is this tremendously debilitating, or is it a
It affects people in different ways. My son is on the more severe end of the
Hmm.
condition.
Hmm.
He is not able to walk. He's not able to talk. He uses a feeding tube, and he has tremendous challenges with seizures.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. He was the happiest kid you ever met when he was a little kid, and he would give anybody a hug, and he would just hug you and hold you. He was a really, really great little kid. As he got older, it became a lot more challenging for sure.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. I was going to ask you later what was the most challenging thing that happened to you in your life, and I think I just found out.
Yeah, I know. I think that would be it. Um, when he was born, something was clearly wrong. We actually knew before he was born something was clearly wrong, but we didn't know what it was.
Hmm.
It took us a number of years to figure out his exact diagnosis because it was so rare.
Hmm.
He was originally diagnosed with cerebral palsy,
Hmm.
which didn't quite fit him, but we didn't know any better, and it got us the services that we were looking for. But thankfully, we eventually figured it out,
Hmm.
and there's now a pretty amazing community worldwide of families that have these kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite a journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh,
So,
my this is a photo actually of my father on Mount Fuji. He and I climbed this as well.
okay.
And this is kind of funny. This is I believe, a Chinese couple that came up to him and asked him to have their photo taken with them because they had never seen anybody with a white beard before. Yeah.
So how many major mountaintops do you have in your uh, history?
That's a good question, Randy. I'm not sure that I've ever
Okay.
calculated. Do you think I'd have a spreadsheet for that?
Yeah.
Um, my dad kept track of it. I know for sure in Canada that I've climbed probably about 50 mountains
Okay.
in the Canadian Rockies,
Wow.
and then some other ones like
Right.
Kilimanjaro and Mount Fuji and others like that. I did attempt the highest mountain in the Americas, Aconcagua in Argentina.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I was sick on that trip and never recovered. So when I got to base camp after a 3-day hike, I decided that I wasn't getting any better, and I ended up taking a helicopter out of base camp and going back.
Wow.
Um, one of the best helicopter rides of my life, by the way. But yeah, wasn't successful in climbing that mountain. So yeah, my dad passed away with leukemia in 2013, and one of his final things that he did was put a book together, kind of the story of his life.
Mm. Hmm.
And this is him sitting on a mountain in Canada. And so that was very much who he was, and I think it was for me as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and by the way, if anybody's look out there is looking to give an amazing gift to their family, write a story about your life. It's an incredible book that he gave us. Um, I have a copy of it here. It's this hard copy book. It's about, I don't know, 150 pages or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and it's just full of photos and stories about his life. It's an amazing thing that he gave us.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, and then from there, my dad was lucky enough to meet my wife.
Aha.
Um, I tell people that he fell in love with her probably quicker than I did, which was something. So I'm glad he got to meet her before he passed. But the story I tell about my wife is that I went to Brazil and I was in the rainforest and I saw her wandering in the jungle with her face painted. And I decided that this was the person for me. That's actually not a true story, but my wife thinks that's a funny story. Um, yeah, we actually met online. This was her online profile photo.
That's a pretty good photo to, you were
Pretty eye-catching.
flipping through the photos, and
That's right. So yeah, I was the first person to reach out to her.
uh-huh.
So that tells you how desperate she was to find a man. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
She was a comedian in Brazil.
Yeah,
And her last show, she played seven different characters. These are all her on this card here. The show was about the seven deadly sins, and each character was one of the deadly sins.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And so she was making a living as a comedian,
She was trying to.
trying to make a living. Okay.
Yes.
I guess that's true for many stand-up comedians.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a tough job. Her last show, I think she played in a theater in Sao Paulo to a crowd of about 600 people.
Oh,
So
that's quite successful.
she was starting to hit her stride.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then I came along and interrupted the whole thing. She's a very adventurous woman, although her idea of adventure is more like this.
I see. I see. She's not like into mountain climbing or running 20 or 30 miles at a time.
Not quite like that, but she, to her credit, she has had some pretty great experiences. This is in Tasmania with the wombat.
It's okay.
So she was quite comfortable being close to this wild animal, a little bit less comfortable being close to this wild animal,
Yeah.
which is a caiman in Brazil. Apparently, if you sneak up behind them, you can get pretty close.
Hmm.
Just don't approach them from the side or the front.
I see. I got it.
They have a blind
Remember
spot
that. I'll
apparently
remember
for,
that next time I'm there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now on this trip, this is also a Brazilian thing. You put a snake around your neck. And so this is how it's done, Randy. But when my wife did it, this is what happened. The snake crawled up on top of her head. Now maybe she used some shampoo or something that the snake really liked the flavor of. Yeah. So that was quite an experience for her there.
I got it.
And here's a photo without a snake on her head.
Well, okay. So but you skipped over the part that would have been another similarity in our lives. Of course, I spent my entire adult life in the bicycle business,
Hmm.
although I was never a racer, never a significant rider. I mean, I rode, back and forth to school and back and forth to my girlfriend's house and back and forth to this and that. But I did spend my whole life in the cycling industry. And you then, as part of your sports career, you spent some time cycling. So what were you working on?
Yeah, for me, that was just more fun. By the time I found cycling, I was done with running and I was pretty much done with mountain climbing. And cycling was just a great way to, spend time outside and stay in shape.
Hmm.
And I was living in Cincinnati at the time, and I had a lot of friends that enjoyed cycling. And Cincinnati actually is a great place to ride a bike. So I was really just doing that more for fun.
Okay, all right.
But
But
then, of course, I
you look pretty
decided that
serious.
riding up mountains
You
would
you
be
you
fun too.
you look pretty serious because you were wearing Lycra spandex, and for a person to wear Lycra spandex, they have to be pretty serious about their sport.
True, although if you do any amount of cycling and if you don't wear that, you're going to be in trouble. So you discover very quickly the importance of wearing spandex, whether you want to or not.
Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted you. You decided you would combine two of your sports, and so you started using your bicycle to go up mountains.
Yeah, one of the fun things I do enjoy doing, I don't know why, again, I can't explain this to you, but I love riding my bike up mountains, particularly volcanoes in Hawaii. It's been one of my favorite things to do. I've ridden up three of them in Hawaii. Um, there was one road up a volcano in Hawaii to a prison.
Hmm.
that when we were going up, there was signs that said, don't go past this point. But, I wanted to get to the top. And so we did. So we ended up meeting the prison warden,
I bet you did.
right? And she had a little friendly conversation with us. But the good news is she gave us her business card. And if we ever want to go back there, we need to call her first,
I see. All right.
give her some advance notice. So we left on friendly terms.
That's good. That's good. So famously in Los Angeles, we have this, I forget, 20 degree or 22 degree. I forget what it's called now. Over in San Fernando, the San Fernando Pass off the 405, I think it is. And I want to say the road is one of the steepest, in the country or something. And there's this race every year. Have you ever participated in any of those kind of uphill races?
I did an uphill running race one time.
Okay, all right.
When I first moved to Cincinnati, it's a road called Straight Street, and it goes up to a hospital, which is good because people needed the services by the time they got to the top. The first year I did it, actually the first and only time I did it, I won the race.
Okay.
And that was really enjoyable because nobody knew who I was. And so nobody expected me to beat them, right? And I had a few races like that when I first showed up in Cincinnati because no one knew who this guy was.
Right.
My prize for winning that race, I think, was a 6-pack of beer.
I see. Okay. There you go.
So that was good. And cycling, I'm not particularly interested in riding up steep hills.
Mm-hmm.
That's less interesting to me than riding up high mountains.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And you say you continue that particular sport to this day.
I do. Yeah. I rode my bike this morning. Now, where I live in Florida, there aren't so many hills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
An overpass qualifies as a hill around here.
That's good. I like it. So I'll give you a challenge because you like to do long distance and you're not a cyclist. I walked into a bike shop. I want to say this was about 12 years ago. And one of the hottest days I've in Orange County, I think I've ever seen, because Orange County tends to be a little cooler. But I think it was well into the 90s. And in walks this guy that looked like he was older than me now, well older than me now. In fact, he turned out he was well older than me now. His deal was that on his birthday every year he rode his age.
Mm.
And so because it was his birthday, the weather did not hold him back. And so on his 91st birthday,
Wow.
in the 90s, he was doing 91 miles. So there you go, sir.
That's a challenge that just gets harder and harder every year. That's impressive.
I was pretty impressed. All right, so that kind of wraps up the sports life. It kind of wraps up the what do you want to call it? Gives kind of the overview. The thing that you left out was your children currently. You have a couple of young people in your life right now. So talk to me about, because everybody always wants to know about somebody's kids.
Yeah, I have 4 children. So 2 from my first marriage and 2 from my second.
Mhm.
Boy and a girl, boy and a girl.
Mm,
So the oldest ones are 25, and my oldest daughter just turned 23.
okay. Mhm.
She's going to be going to graduate school in California come August. So she's doing really well. And then I've got 2 younger ones. My son is 9 and my daughter's 7. And this second set of kids has been very different and in some ways a lot more fun because as a parent now, there were no mysteries about what was going to happen.
Right.
Right. And I'd been through a pretty challenging time as a parent with the first 2 kids,
Yes.
Particularly the son. My oldest daughter was great, but just that as a parenting experience, that was very challenging.
Right.
And I would say the second time around, knowing exactly what's to come has just made it so much more enjoyable. Right. In some ways, I kind of joke that it's almost like, I'm a grandparent and I'm enjoying my grandkids, but I'm not that old yet, Randy. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I had my 2 biological children. I have 2 adopted, actually legally adopted children. And I have 2 kids biologically. And the last, like you, they were had those at an advanced age. But when I had the last one, I think, how old was I? I was old. But my concern was, I said, I was afraid that when he got to be 11 or 12, I would say, go deep. And I would say, no, not that deep. So have there been any challenges being a man in your 50s with these young people?
So far, so good.
Okay, all right.
But I'm sure once they become teenagers, the challenges will only increase because they'll be getting that much better, and I'll be declining that much faster. But yeah, so far so good, Randy.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
I guess I figured it out. I was 58 when my youngest was born, so I think I eclipsed you on that. Is that right? That can't be right. 48. 48, right? Yeah, 48 with my youngest was born. So that's pretty close.
Okay. Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Okay, all right. So that then gives us, again, that overview I was just talking about. We've wrapped up the overview. So let's end chapter 2 here. We'll go on to chapter 3, which for some people will be the most interesting because some people probably could care less. No, I'm kidding. But we'll go into the career side. We'll get into, the challenges that you had in the career, any kinds of stuff that you saw along the way, and then, how you got to where you are and why you do what you do now. So let's end chapter 2. And thank you, Cern, for taking us this far in your life story.
Sounds good. Thank you.
To all of you out there, as always, been great talking to you.